If you clicked on this, you might be wondering, is Ali Abdaal's AI ghostwriting app Voicepal actually any good? And can you get to a decent first draft of your content using AI? That's why today I want to take you through Voicepal as a new user, talk about what's good, what's bad, what they can improve, and some areas that they can unlock revenue for the app. My name is Chris, and for the last 15 years I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design, and I believe the next wave of incredible businesses and apps are going to be built using these AI tools. So with that said, let's have a look at Voicepal and see how it works.
Build great products. Build great products.
So this is Voicepal, a ghostwriter in your pocket. This is an app that has been created by Ali Abdaal and his team as a way of helping you to create your first draft of an article or a piece of writing in minutes using AI. Essentially, you talk into it and you kind of give it your idea of what you're thinking about writing, and then it will create a draft for you. I'm pretty sure that's what it does. I'm going to sign up here. I'm going to take you through my initial experience of using the app, and then let's see if we can outline a draft for an article with me kind of recording what I want to. I've got an idea for an article in my head, so let's try and create it. Let me sign up. Okay, we're in Voicepal. So first time using Voicepal, let's get you acquainted. Let's take a minute to show you the basics, make sure you're in a quiet place and ready for a few simple steps. I'm ready. You can actually skip the whole onboarding here as well. So I will see, like, it would be interesting to see what the experience is like in the app once you get inside there, just to see, like, if you skip the onboarding, then what happens then. I think, like, one thing that would be really good here actually is to give me an idea of, it kind of gives me an idea of time. There's not like a sense of progress at the top, so it's not like this is a progress bar here, this is going to fill up, I imagine, as I go through onboarding, but like how many steps might this be? It says let's take a minute and then a few simple steps, so I'm assuming it's going to be quick. One way that you can encourage people to go through these onboarding screens, if you're building your own app, is just to add like a time with like a watch icon or like a stopwatch icon, just to say like usually takes 3 minutes or like takes less than 3 minutes. And then that's like a really, because people scan, I'm going to read this headline. Most users are going to read the headline, they're not going to read that text, and then they're probably going to click skip. Because we perceive it to be something that's going to take a long time. So we want to just show here, like call it out with an icon, something visual to grab attention, to say takes less than 3 minutes. And then that's going to incentivize more people to go through this. I'm not going to click on skip because I do want to do the onboarding, but also you can do like add a friction pop-up to skipping sometimes if you want to encourage, if it's more complicated and you do want to encourage people to go through it, just to say like, are you sure? You might miss out on like some key setup things, but it will get you straight into the app, just to give users a bit of context as to like, if you skip, here's what you're skipping, so that you can carry on doing it if you do want to do those things, because as a user you don't know what's coming up in this sequence yet. So let's go continue. Let's start by diving deeper into your thoughts. You've still got the skip button up here as well. So one thing that I would say is this feels like a very big question. One of the principles that I tend to stick by is this increasing difficulty of questions over the course of like your onboarding. So start with something simple, maybe like ask the person's name to start off with, instead of saying, what do you think about the nature of existence? It's like, that's a very deep question to ask at the beginning. So let's start by diving deeper into your thoughts. Feels pretty big. Choose a question that resonates with you and speak your mind for 30 seconds. The more authentic, the better. Okay, so what is this doing? You also have like a few dots down here of like, I'm assuming I can go through this as like a carousel. So what are these? What actually are these? What's the most interesting story? So this is me choosing, I have to choose one of these questions. This is grayed out, so I can't click it. And then I'm assuming I click the microphone icon to record that. So what I would do here instead, I think this needs to be a lot clearer. I would change the title to something like, choose a question and tell us what you think. And then in the text here, I would tell you why that's happening. But so we don't have an idea of why I'm being asked this at this point. So I would say, speaking for 30 seconds about a subject will give us an idea of your tone of voice and how you talk, so that we can write stuff like you better. That's very wordy, but make it more succinct, and that will work a lot better here. And also, this tiny little microphone button, just make it a huge button in here, a huge primary button that you can click that says like start recording or like answer question, because I'm kind of stuck at this point if I don't know that I have to click that microphone icon, which I think a lot of people won't. You'll be trying to figure out like, well, how do I continue? Like, what do I do here? Like, these dots are like not really enough to navigate through these. What's happened? Also, something's happened here where I've lost... Oh, there we go. There's a bug where we've lost all of the questions. It's not that intuitive to see the other question options as well. What would be really good to do here is just to add like a little peek of like a card and the next card on this carousel, so that I know to like swipe across. So let's have a look at the questions, and I'll answer one of these. What is the most formative experience you've had in the past? What did it teach you? My thoughts on these questions as well is that these are really difficult questions to answer. What's the most interesting story or anecdote you've come across recently? You know that feeling that you get when you're in a conversation with someone and they go, oh, tell us a fun thing about you, and your mind goes completely blank. You're getting that feeling here as well. So maybe something that would be useful here is to make these a little bit lower barrier to entry, or give examples of what I might say instead of having it so open-ended. I feel like this is like quite a barrier to me, like setting this up at this point. And obviously I can skip, and I feel like I might be inclined to skip at this point if I was actually like using this just by myself. Let's have a look at the other options. I'm guessing that what this is going to do is create an article outline for me as like my first article that I've created when I go into Voicepal. It's going to use what I tell it in 30 seconds to like create an article outline for me. Now I'm assuming this here because I know that what a good principle to like follow in onboarding for apps generally is to help the user create something valuable straight away. But it's not entirely clear that that's what I'm doing at this point. So it would be really helpful going into this experience to present it more like, let's create your first article together, and then take the user through the steps of creating it, because right now I don't even know what this is for, as I mentioned. Right, so I have recorded my 30 seconds of something, and I've come through to this next step: your thoughts organized in streams. Each stream is like a personal brainstorm where your ideas are organized around specific topics or concepts. So this is introducing a new part of this, which I feel like I wasn't aware of going into the app, which is like, this is kind of creating this way of organizing all of these different streams of thoughts. So maybe you don't have to like have an idea for an article straight off the bat. You can kind of just speak your thoughts into Voicepal, and it will like organize those thoughts into like coherent like articles or drafts for you. So I did this one around advice to my younger self, where I talked about taking risks and facing things that are scary, and that often being the right path forwards. So I'm going to continue from this. It's given me like a little thought stream thing here. Go deeper with the shadow reader. Get personalized questions to help you refine and expand your ideas. The more you explore, the richer your content will become. Okay, that's interesting. So like, this is also like a bit of a back and forth like creation process here with Voicepal, in that it's going to ask you questions based off of what you said in order to create a better article outline. I'm really interested here as well as to what kind of like formats you can apply to these articles, like speaking from a business perspective and an optimization perspective, because that's the world that I kind of exist in like a lot of the time. Can you apply like an article format or a certain type of like title or subheading to an article? Like, I know that reading an article, the majority of the value for people comes from the headings and the subheadings, because a lot of people don't read the content in between and people just scan. So how can I apply that format to my drafts in Voicepal? I'll be interested to see how that works. Let's keep going. Pick a question to elaborate your thoughts. So I'm going to have to go back and record this again. So what specific risks do you wish you had taken in 2014? Can you share a particular moment when you felt afraid to step out on your own? Again, like these are really difficult questions. Usually in app onboarding, when we're getting a user to create something that's going to be valuable to them, we're kind of just doing that to like demonstrate the features and demonstrate the process of how this works. One part of this which I'm unsure of is that it's kind of given me initial prompts for like going deeper into my thoughts, but actually I don't really want to create an article about this. So I think there might be a mismatch here between why users would download this app and what it's trying to help people in this onboarding flow. It's kind of assuming that people don't know what to write about, and then they're going into the app and this is helping them find out what to write about. But what it should really kind of like be doing is catering for different types of use case. And there's a high chance that if I have downloaded this app to write a first draft of an article using AI, then I might already have an idea of what I want to write about. So maybe you can do this a couple of different ways. So maybe we want to take someone through a journey instead of asking these really deep, complicated questions, which are going to require the user to take a bit of time to think about it. They might have to close the app. They might forget that they were using the app. They might come back to it and think, oh, this is just too much time. This is taking too long. I don't know what to do. Or they'll just skip this process entirely and have to figure out the features for themselves. What I would maybe do here instead is to start off by saying, what do you want to use? What do you want to use Voicepal for? And then giving the options of, I have an article idea, help me outline it, or I don't know what to write about, help me to come up with some ideas, because they're two very different use cases. And maybe like the onboarding flow is just about demonstrating how an article outline would be created off the back of something that you want to write about, and then showing the features, like we're going to give you questions to go deeper, rather than actually having the user to like go into these really deep questions, especially when there's something that the user might not want to be thinking about. Like, I don't actually want to write an article about advice that I would give to my younger self, or to think of a particular moment that I felt afraid to step out on my own. I don't really want to do that right now. I kind of just want to get into it because I have an idea for an article that I want to write. I kind of want to get to my draft of like doing that. And so even if, and like that could even be a skip option, to be honest, of like, I already have an idea for an article and then that skips straight into the app. So like this feels a bit tedious for me to go through at this point, but I'm going to keep going through so we can demo the product and see what it does. Let me record an answer for one of these deeper questions. Quick break in the episode to talk about my design agency, Telescope. Telescope is a tailor-made design service for ambitious and early-stage startups. We've helped clients go on to raise millions, win startup awards, and unlock new product growth opportunities and new business opportunities for their startup. You can check out the link in the description or go to Telescope.design to find out more. Back to the episode. Voicepal will take your thoughts and using customizable presets. So we are going to get presets, so that's great. So maybe it would be good to know that up front. Maybe I should have like done a bit more research, but I didn't come across that. So there's a missed opportunity here for like communicating the benefits of Voicepal up front early. Maybe that's in the App Store as well. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at that, to be fair, but to saying like you get presets, you can outline your first draft, you can generate your content, you can come up with article ideas, because it's doing like all these different use cases and it's doing them pretty well. But I wasn't aware of the fact that it could do this for me. So this seems really, really valuable. Generate content that truly reflects your unique voice and style. Great. Here's another little screenshot of like some UI, which I don't really understand at this point. Like it's not very tangible. So yeah, one recommendation here is to improve these UI mockups of, I've kind of got like my thing that I put in here about embracing risk. That's my actual ideas that I've put in here. And then a little ghost with a microphone at the bottom and add thoughts, like I can add thoughts, but this isn't related to my first draft. So yeah, I would definitely improve these UI mockups going through this. Let's continue. From thoughts to first draft in minutes, we kind of already said that before. Okay, so now it's actually like generating this newsletter for me. It's assumed that I'm using Substack. So one thing that might be good in this onboarding flow is to like connect to my platform that I'm using before I get to this point, or ask me where I publish my blogs to at this point. So say like, where do you publish your blogs? Do you do it on your own website? Do you do it to Substack? Do you do it on Medium? And then connect to the account and allow me to publish that article, almost like I'm creating the article in onboarding, and then I publish it straight to my account, and then I can see the results of that. And they are going to be better than previous articles that I've written, and so I'm going to continue using Voicepal. Like, I really like the idea that they have here going through the onboarding of, we want you to create something and then publish it, because the closer you can get to like actual results or impact for a user the first time they use that product, the more valuable you're going to perceive it's going to be. So it's a really, really good idea. It's just not quite executed well enough, I don't think, at this point. So I can kind of read through my article that I've got here. Final thoughts. Can I edit this? And what can I do from it? What are these next options here? Okay, so this is like a different platform. So again, then I wasn't aware of that. That makes it a little bit confusing. It's also doing social here as well. Okay, so you can put your thoughts into this and it's going to give you social content as well. So that's another benefit that I wasn't aware of. So we need to like communicate benefits better up front and then help the user do what they want to achieve when they go into the app, rather than just assuming that all people like don't have an idea of what they want to write about. Help me do a thing that's what I want to achieve as I'm going through onboarding into the app. That would be super, super useful. An example of an app that does this really, really well is Spiral.computer by Every, and Spiral asks you up front, where do you write and where do you post to and what are you trying to create? And then you put in your writing, existing versions of that, and it will give you output. So I do think that would be a really good idea for them to do here, is to like ask those questions of where you're kind of posting and creating stuff up front here. Let's continue. That's only the start of what's possible. We've got many more features to help you go from thoughts to first draft, train presets on your own content, set your reader profile, fine-tune the AI's creativity level. I think what you can do here, and I wouldn't have this in the onboarding, because what I like to focus on in onboarding is to say, let's create a thing that's valuable for you, put it out into the world, see the results come in, and then for all of these other features, let's guide the user through them as they're using the product, because these are not the primary features of the app. And usually 80% of the app's usage from a user is going to be through one feature. And that one feature that they're really, really focusing on here is me recording my thoughts, or me recording an idea for an article and then creating the first draft of that article in different formats for different platforms. That's really the one feature that we want to be focused on here. So instead of just having cards for these features because you feel like you need to communicate them to the user, let the user discover that as they're creating. So an example of how to do that would be, this one here is about fine-tuning the AI's creativity level. When I create my next article, when I record my idea, give me this option and like put a little tooltip to it before I like generate my article outline, because then you're slowly introducing these other features as the user kind of continues to use the product, and that builds up more and more value over time. You kind of like compound the value perception for the user over time by bringing in these other like associated features as I'm kind of going through and using it, because one, I'm not going to remember these features from this, and two, this is just kind of adding overwhelming information to me. Like, I'm not going to remember it, I'm not going to read it, it's already too much text, I don't know what the icons and the pictures means, I'm just going to skip this point, I'm already near the end, I've got the thing that I wanted to create, so let's just go past this. That's what people are going to be thinking, so we don't need this here, we can just guide people through the features in the actual app. Try Voicepal for free for 24 hours, sure, let's do it. There's a huge missed opportunity here. The missed opportunity is that a very large percentage, and I'm talking like 40 to 50% sometimes, a very large percentage of users, when they're using an app, or when they use an app for the first time, they pay for a plan at the end of the onboarding. at the paywall screen, even if there's a free trial there, a lot of users pay for the app in the onboarding. And that free trial kind of upgrade after 24 hours or 7 days or however long it is usually doesn't convert as well as that. So we want to really tell people here's how you can pay for this. If you liked what you did in the onboarding, pay for it right now. You'll get a good deal, and you'll have it. And even like do the monthly and the yearly, where the yearly is a lot cheaper by month, and that standard kind of SaaS pricing model. Because if people can pay for a year at this point, you're just leaving money on the table at this point, basically, by not having a paywall here. Let's go to the app. Why am I being asked if I'm enjoying Voicepal? Is this because Ali Abdaal wants a good NPS score? So NPS is often a metric that is used from an investment point of view. If I want to get investment into me building an app in the traditional kind of startup world, NPS is like customer satisfaction is a metric that I can often put in my pitch decks to show investors, to say people really like this product. You can kind of game NPS though by asking people, are you enjoying it, or like, do you like this at a certain time? I feel like this is a bad time, but I don't know, because people are probably going to feel bad about saying no, and they're probably going to feel better about saying yes. But my overwhelming motivation here is I want to close this pop-up, and I don't want to answer this question. So I'm going to do thumbs up, because I just want to get rid of the pop-up. That is not a valuable set of data for you to have on your app, because it doesn't tell you if people actually are enjoying your product or not. What you're trying to do here is you're not trying to game a metric of customer satisfaction. You're trying to get an accurate representation of, do people like your app or not at different points in the flow. So you can even ask these questions and add a bit more and allow people to put in a bit more detail if they want to. Ask these questions at different point in your app related to different features, because that's going to give you really valuable insight on which things are working, which things aren't working, and that allows you to improve the experience. I'm also being asked to rate it in the App Store. Again, I just want to get into the app, please. Click not now. You might get a rating off the back of that, but we've barely experienced anything of the product here. I don't know. I might assume, because Ali Abdaal is a well-known person on YouTube and on social media, that some people already have a good connection with him on a more personal level, because there's that kind of personal brand piece around it. So if people in his audience feel like they're connected to the product, then they might be inclined to give a higher rating in the App Store, because there's that connection, and that could push it up the rankings and show it to more people in the App Store. So I can totally understand why they're doing that here. It's just kind of like a gaming the kind of review ecosystem of the App Store, basically. I'm being cynical, because maybe there's some other reason for putting it there, but for me, these things are kind of getting in the way of me actually getting to the thing that I want to do, which is I want to create my own article and not an article that I've been told to create in onboarding. Okay, so we've got your home screen here, your streams, and your drafts. So streams is this term that we're using for your thoughts, where your thoughts are going. I feel like this term is maybe not necessary at this point, and I would just call it ideas, because this is or your sketch pad, or call it something that people are really familiar with already, and they have that concept association. So a sketch pad or a notepad or ideas is about where I'm kind of writing or coming up with my fuzzy mess of stuff that I'm not sure that I want to do, and I'm iterating on things, and I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to create a first draft. Streams feels a bit, I'm not sure what that means, and I was only introduced to that term a couple of times in the onboarding, so there's maybe a little bit of confusion there as well. You've got topic ideas here, you've got what you've done today. What I would really like to see from this screen when you land in the app is something that's much more what would you like to do today? Would you like to create a social post from your article draft? Would you like to write a draft outline for one of your ideas? Would you like to find ideas for your next article? Just like think about when a user gets into your product, what I would really think about is what are the ways that they want to use that, and how can you guide them down the right path to get to the output that they want? Because otherwise there's this disconnect between what I want to achieve and trying to figure out how to do it. So if I don't have that like really clear kind of call to action of like create an article draft for your next idea, then what I have to do here is I have to figure it out myself. I have to go, well, here's where my other ones are today. Here's some topic ideas. So maybe I can look at topic ideas, and then maybe there's no topic ideas. There we go. Okay, it's generating some topic ideas. Maybe I have a look through these, but actually, like, if I have an idea for something, maybe do I go to like drafts? Do I like create a new draft? This is a template, and these are for different platforms. Do I want to? Let's have a look at the newsletter template. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Do I create that? Or what's that going to do when I create the template? Also, these template settings feel confusing. Like, not sure. I'll go back. Let me go to streams and let me click plus and let me do a new thought. Okay, so but how do I create a draft of my article? I just want to create a draft of my article, and I don't know how to do it. But nothing here is telling me how to do it. I've gone through the onboarding, and that also didn't help because it didn't say like click here and then do this. Or we didn't take the user into the app and then guide them through those steps. What I'm going to try here is because I actually I think I know, because I think you have to do a thought and then it will convert into an article draft. So I'm going to go and record a thought here, and you can actually type it as well, so that's good. I'm going to record a thought here because this is Voicepal and we want to see how it works with voice, and then I'm going to see what the output looks like and what we get on the other side. Okay, so I've recorded my thought here about this article. So 3 essential elements for creating an app with AI coding tools. I wanted to write about the 3 kind of key things that I think you can do to like one-shot an app in Replit or Lovable or something like that. And so I've recorded this idea down here, and it's broken up into these 3 points because I want to create an article with like 3 sections and a title. That's pretty standard format. I would create a template if I knew how to for like this as an article format, to have like title and 3 sections, and then format the headings and the titles and the subheadings in a specific way as well. What would be really good in this app, I think, as well, is to kind of guide people down with that insight as well. So to help, if I'm writing a newsletter for a specific platform, or if I'm writing an article for Medium or Substack, for example, what are the formats that work best? Like, add a little bits of insight as I'm creating this. Like, so we've got these questions here which are like further thoughts. These are also not particularly accessible, so these look kind of inactive at this point. I don't know if I'm supposed to be clicking on these, and for someone who's visually impaired, you actually probably wouldn't be able to read these either. So if I've created my thought here, and then I go through some follow-up questions, it might then say like, well, how do you want to create your first draft? What template do you want to use to create your first draft? So let me go and answer some questions and see what happens. So I added some more information here around what a user journey is, that it's step by step, and you kind of have to explain to a user like each step that they have to go through in the prompt that you're using to create your app. It's keeping on asking me questions as a follow-up to this. What I'm not sure about is like, how many questions am I going to be asked? Is this going to ask me an unlimited number of questions to refine my thought? And at what point do I convert it into something like an article outline? So I think that almost like that journey should be more linear, and should be more guided for a user, because we're asking quite a lot of the user at this point to say, like, you need to know that you can put in your thought in here, and then we're going to ask you follow-up questions. You need to know when is enough follow-up questions, and then you need to know how to get that into the right format. We should be guiding the user through this. So like, if I want to create an article outline, let's guide the user through the steps to do that, and let's suggest a certain number of follow-up questions to say, like, first, give us your idea for your article. Second, like, let's answer 2 to 3 follow-up questions to refine it better. Third, let's pick a format based on where you want to post it. And then fourth, like, let's help you actually post it to that place. So like, do a more linear journey. I mean, maybe this is designed to be more exploratory as like a kind of thought canvas, but I would say like that as a proposition for someone to understand is a lot less tangible than trying to get to the output. And what I've learned from working with tons of startups is that the ones that really work well are the ones that are really, really clear and tangible, and you know exactly what you're going to get. So like, these creative kind of processes are really valuable, but you have to tie it to that something that's tangible, and you have to give users like these signposts as to like, what's going to happen next, what are you going to get out of it, how do you take the next valuable step, and how do we get to the thing that you actually want to create, even within this framework of like exploratory creative kind of writing. So I clicked this button here, and then I got these options to create a draft for something. So this is obviously the draft icon. What that is down there, it's kind of like it looks like a Twitter icon on a blue thing with a thing behind it. So that button is unclear. Why can't, I would say like, why we should rethink this kind of action bar down here. Number one is Voicepal. So like, let's focus on the microphone interaction. Number two, like, let's condense this thoughts like text bit down into just like a pen icon potentially. And then number three, let's expand this to have like create draft as a primary button, so that I'm really clearly knowing what the next step is. And then you can even like add a bit of friction in there to say, like, if I click create draft and I haven't done any deeper thought, answered any further questions here, to say like, are you sure you want to? Generally it's best to like answer a few more questions before you create your draft, and then you can say yes, or you can go back and answer some more questions. So let's create a draft. I also want to create a blog post. I want to create a blog article. So I don't know where that is. And also it's not Twitter, it's X, so we do need to update that. Custom draft. This is way too many. This is too many things. Okay, so let's say blog article. What else should we keep in mind? Article should have a title and 3 sections with a conclusion section at the end. And then additional settings, creativity level, I'm going to put it to 3. Word count, let's say 1,000. I might want to do longer than that for a blog article, like 2,000. Maybe it's I'm not sure why that's not an option in here. So let's create that. Okay, that's cool. So like, I'm saving my new preset here. So I'm like creating a template for a blog article. It feels like this should be a template already in here, but that's fine. Let's generate the draft, see what happens. The same thing is happening here that has happened on a couple of my other AI product teardowns, where if something is loading or we're generating some sort of content, we want to give the user an idea of how long this is going to take. So we've got just generating and it's flashing here. Ideally, even just a little message on top of that saying this usually takes 1 to 2 minutes will help me to understand that I can wait for that to happen, rather than what will happen if we're not clear about how long that's going to take to generate. What will happen for someone is that they'll go, well, I'll just come back to this. I'm going to pop over to TikTok or have a look on Instagram quickly while that's loading, and then I probably forget. And then I'll stop using the app. So we want to keep people here. We want to give them an idea of how long it's going to take, and that it's going to be quick, so that they can stay here, they don't go anywhere else, so that we can keep them kind of like building that habit in the app. This is a draft. So we've got our sections. We've got 3 essential elements for creating an app with AI coding tools. It's not particularly, it's not a particularly great title. It's a nice idea. I wonder if I can add something in here to my template to say like the title should be a bit emotional, but there's out there are great frameworks for, hooks and titles and section subheadings, and even like Ali Abdaal has content on his YouTube channel around like how to write hooks and stuff for YouTube videos, and it's not that dissimilar in terms of the principles that you would apply here for an article or for a newsletter or for an X post or for anything that you're kind of generating here. So there's it's generating something, but it's not quite there yet. It's not quite good enough. And I actually think what I would probably do here, and so this is valuable for me, so what I would do is I would take this content, I would actually just change all the titles. I'd probably put the titles into ChatGPT and then use a couple of different prompts to get to a point where I actually have the right titles for each of the sections. It's also added in some other content here that I didn't necessarily ask for it to do. So I asked for it to create 3 sections and then a conclusion. But what you've got here you've got 1, that section, you've got 2, which is provide context, which is what I wanted to add, and then how to break down each of those parts, and then 3 is specify the technologies. It's then gone into how do you choose the right technologies, which I think is a bit too much for this. So maybe one thing that would be really good here is to be able to use Voicepal to edit my draft that I've created. So I can reformat this, but I can't record my voice to do this. It's just text. So can I record a prompt? I just want to be able to use this whole app just using my voice, and that's it really. To say take this section out or change this bit. Example prompt, it's giving an example prompt, iterate and refine, start with an MVP. So this is the section that I didn't want to add in here. This is too much, so I would cut that out. So it's giving me a rough draft, and then I would take that and edit it somewhere else. So I guess it's doing what it says on the tin. It's getting me my draft of my article, but there's still a lot of work to getting this to a point where I actually want to post it. Maybe that's fine. Maybe the point of this app is more about saving and iterating on these ideas so you get to something meaningful, rather than actually posting it anywhere, because there's tons of other apps that do that. So I can see there's value here in doing that. Let's save it. All right, so I've got my thing that I've created there. It's also created a little filter on the top here for my template that I've created, which is really useful because everything that I create is going to be under there. I would really like to have a search here, so that if I'm creating one article, 1 or 2 articles every week, I'm going to get up to 10 to 20 articles over a couple of months, and then I'm going to want to be able to search for them potentially here. And then to go back to streams, I have my stream there. The one thing I do feel with this streams page as well is that these streams that you've got here, that you've started, it does look and feel a little bit functional at the moment. I would like to see Voicepal take a bit more inspiration from the app Dot, which is an AI journaling app, and they really build these amazing UI and animation style interactions that really fits with the vision for this app, I think, really well, which is more about that kind of organic idea, searching for an idea and finding something, going deeper on your thoughts and then creating a draft out of that. So I do think that would be really beneficial. All right, so I've gone through Voicepal. Let's get into the closing thoughts and whether or not you should use this app. I think Voicepal is pretty good at creating a first draft for you for an article or for whatever you want to create, but I do think there's a lot of issues with the experience where things aren't quite connected. And for my key kind of takeaways from the product, I would say the 3 things that can really improve this would be, number 1, asking the user to tell Voicepal what they want to achieve with the product, and having an onboarding experience that matches with that use case for what they want to achieve, and making that onboarding a lot more straightforward and simpler, and to help the user actually accomplish what they want to do, rather than kind of taking them through this flow where they're answering a question that they may not necessarily want to write anything about. Second, I would say it would be great to connect to the platforms a bit more directly for where I'm posting, So Substack or Medium or X or your social accounts, you've got your drafts, but then taking them that next step and editing them and refining them with voice, which you can't do at the moment, and then posting them to those platforms. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this one because I feel like maybe that's not the use case for the actual product, but in that case, help me get my first draft into something where I can refine it and then post it. And the third thing here would be to use terminology that is connected to a concept that the user already understands. So this is around that streams kind of terminology. I would use something like Ideas or Sketchpad, something that people can relate to a lot easier. And I think there's a bunch of really quick wins for the product where they could massively improve the experience, even by having that kind of guided call to action on that first screen when you get into the app, to kind of ask the user, what are you trying to do today? And then guiding them through steps to creating that thing. Turning the draft creation, or like the thought kind of where you're putting your thoughts down and then turning it into a draft, turning that process into something a bit more linear and guided, where you're telling users, oh, we're going to ask you 2 to 3 follow-up questions, and then that's usually kind of enough, instead of kind of relying on the user to figure things out for themselves. And I think that's where there's a gap at the moment, where it's not providing enough value for users. So hopefully you enjoyed that teardown of Voicepal and you've got something useful out of this. If you liked the content, then subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this. I do a new product teardown every single week, and you can sign up to my newsletter over at buildgreatproducts.com. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Build great products. Build great products.